To be or not to be? That is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or hunt down the perpetrators of these ill-conceived platitudes, piercing bluntly at your heartstrings, but thou strike harder the circadian rhythm of their hearts. Aye, what is nobler? The unsullied mind of the sweet dollop of revenge. To sleep, perchance to dream. Ah, there's the rub. For in that sleep of death, what dreams may come? When those have shuffled off this mortal coil, who will make it till the final curtain call? This is It Records. Hey everybody, I'm one of your mini hosts of the show It Records, and I'm joined as always with the lovely co-hosts, Peter and Lindsay. Guys, thanks for being here again. Really appreciate it.
In my house.
Yeah. Thanks, Matt.
It's like, welcome to my home. Yeah. I just feel like you're just like giving us a tour or something.
Yeah, that's what I was going for. And if you guys didn't pick up on my intro, part of it was the actual soliloquy from Hamlet, from Shakespeare. And we watched the 1973 horror film Theater of Blood, which Shakespeare plays, I would say, a minor role in this film. Just a small fraction. For those of you who don't know it, I'll give you a brief little synopsis of the movie. It came out in 1973, and it starred the Vincent Price. He's a Shakespearean actor who takes poetic revenge on the critics who denied him recognition. And this was directed by, Douglas Hitchcock. Douglas Hitchcock directed this film. Yeah.
No relation to Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah, no relation whatsoever. But apparently Douglas Hitchcock did several of these type of horror films in the 70s and 60s. So, I've given you guys a background, listeners, but I have to be honest, I wasn't really fully aware of this film going in, and Lindsay, this was your pick this week. I was just curious, what drew you to it, or how'd you come about it in the podcast?
I don't really know. I was really hard up for ideas, and I wanted, because we're coming upon Halloween season, and I just wanted to do something that I hadn't seen before, and was hoping that it would be new for you guys too. So I was just looking through a lot of compiled lists of these horror movies are great, you should watch them. So I don't know, and then I saw that this one had Vincent Price, and that kind of drew me to it. And when I kind of read the synopsis, I was like, that sounds really interesting and not something that I've ever watched before. So this is what we're gonna do, and here we are.
Well, it is new for me. Pete, were you aware of it / have you seen it before?
I was aware of it, but never seen it.
Okay, so fresh eyes for all.
Okay. This may be a first for, as long as I've been a part of the podcast. I don't know if there's been one that none of us have seen before.
None of us saw Starry Eyes when we watched Starry Eyes.
I take what I just said.
We'll take that off the record. It was there for a second.
It is uncommon. It doesn't happen a lot, but there's been a few that all of us have never seen before.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
That's true.
Yeah, and I'd like to start off with hitting maybe some of the horror significance of this. It is a horror podcast. And shoot it to you guys. What sort of subgenre would we say this really falls into? Because for me, I've got a few, but it's hard to pinpoint exactly where it would fall in the horror genre.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Horror comedy, I guess. I feel like it's pretty self-aware of itself. It's weird because I've seen a lot of horror comedies from the 80s, and it was weird seeing one from the 60s era, which I like. I know Vincent Price like really likes to ham it up. I feel like.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then it's weird because like there's ones where he takes it very seriously, and then there's ones where he doesn't. So it's like it's not like he doesn't really have like a set like go-to piece. He's just like always in like a lot of horror movies from like 50s to the 70s.
Mm-hmm. True. Yeah, and I mean I feel like Vincent Price, if you know the name, he's known for the horror movie. But before that, he like in the 40s, he was known as like this dramatic, serious actor, and then he just took this turn in the 50s to like really campy horrors to these classic horrors that we know. But back to the subgenre point, I guess, is I'd say it is really like a self-reflexive horror, not to the way of like Scream or like Reanimator, but it's definitely like aware of what it's doing, because there's several moments where Vincent Price is like almost looking at the camera and like making kind of jokes about what he's doing, like when he's cutting the guy's head off.
Yeah.
He's like making a joke of it, so it's got that slapstick element to it. Yeah, and it has a lot of the similar like not American, but like Gothic elements. I feel like the 60s and 70s movies kind of did in Britain during the time, like the Hammer productions, the Hammer Studios that came out with like the Draculas and the Frankensteins during this time period.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There's definitely elements of a black comedy in here.
Was it not
as well as
a Hammer film? Sorry, Lindsay, to interrupt you.
It was not, because I looked that up because I was like, I'm going to talk about Hammer in this podcast because, great, we got a movie that's Hammer. Was not. It's Harbor, I believe, Harbor Productions. So we can talk about Hammer later, but it wasn't.
We haven't done a Hammer film yet, which is very surprising.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That could be next on the list. We'll look one up.
Definitely.
Oh, never mind. I was gonna name a movie that wasn't a Hammer picture, so never mind. Lindsay, were you gonna say something on the subgenres? Or...
Yeah, this movie's got a lot going on. There's obviously a lot of violence, which we can get to in a little bit. Melodrama, like, galore, which I think Vincent Price did a really good job with portraying. And then there's humor in there, too. So I think it's kind of, it's got a little bit of almost everything, I would say. So
yeah, that's a good point.
Made it enjoyable, but
I overlooked melodrama a lot, but it's definitely in there.
In no short supply.
I really like that. I guess I could go like you brought up Shakespeare, and there's good reason for it, that he's a Shakespearean actor, and he kind of like takes his different roles that he's played, and each play a significant role in each of like his way of payback, and I feel like that was just a lot of fun for me.
Yeah,
that was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought it was very interesting. I was kind of like, and just to reiterate even more, he's a Shakespearean actor. The critics pan all of his performances, don't give him this award. He's coming to kill those critics who panned his performances one by one in a Shakespearean type death. So I was kind of looking forward to each one. I was like, all right, what one is next? What play is on the docket next that he's going to try to bring some murder from? But I kind of saw where it was going, which isn't necessarily a terrible thing. Like, I kind of guessed like King Lear was going to be the end of this movie, but I was like on board the whole time, like very interested in where the next death was going to happen.
Yeah, I think that was like one of their main criticisms, or at least one of them had that criticism of him. He was like, you don't do anything other than Shakespeare. And, he was like, what's wrong with that? And the other one was like, I was trying to, like, pull you into, like, I don't know, something more modern. And so, I mean, that one ended up dying, I think. All of them, well, a lot of them died. I think the body count was actually 11, is what I read.
Was it 11? Yeah, I was trying to do the math myself. I wrote down the critics who were killed and in what manners and what play it was, supposed to be tied to, but it was 11 was the total count. Okay.
Yeah, I only know that because I looked it up,
that's
though. Not because I kept my own tallies.
That's pretty high for like I feel like from a movie back then. I feel like didn't have like a lot of killings. Like that's more of like with the slasher genre. I feel like it kind of like where the body count is.
Well, this is sort of like a serial killer movie, I guess, like where they keep adding up. But you're from the first scene, essentially, you're with the killer. You're with Vincent Price, like you know who it is and you know what they're doing. So it almost with Rope, which was similar. You saw the death from the beginning and you know who did it, but there's always that tension of where are they going to take it next.
Do you like how this introduced Vincent Price, where it was just like that? The critic was just like being real British. Is like, oh, these rapscallions just need a good authority figure to tell the bums to just to go away. Yeah. And he's like, come on. Oh, you know? And then just like weren't moving and laughing at him. And then they all stab him. And then like he goes to the cop. And then like Vincent Price like dramatically like reveals himself to him. And I'm like, oh man, I'm in for a real treat in this movie.
Well, I think what even did it for me when like the reveal for Vincent Price, it wasn't like a full mask, right? At one point he pulls a mustache off of his existing mustache. So it was just a different mustache over his. And I was like, oh, that's what sold me. I was like, this is going to be great. Like, all it takes is a different mustache, and they don't know it's Edward Lionheart.
I actually didn't even realize that was Vincent Price at first.
I didn't either. I thought they did a good job in that scene. It's like all third-person camera view. Like, the camera is like just basically getting the foreground and the background, and it's not really focusing on a protagonist until you see the bums attacking the critic, and then it becomes a first-person camera from his point of view. And that's when I really felt the tension. And they swivel the camera to see the two police officers. I thought that was a really good job of like showing, I guess, the power dynamic change in the scene.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah. Can we talk about like his character a little bit? Because like he's crazy.
I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Edward Lionheart.
Like, he's so, like, obsessed with Shakespeare, like, okay, but, like, he has, like, without a doubt, like, delusions of grandeur. Like, he is his own biggest fan, and that's, like, I mean, that's why we have a plot, I guess, you know, because, like, he, like, thinks he's spending all this time trying to convince these critics of how great he is, and they're like, no, like, we don't really think so. And then it just becomes a little too much for him, and hence poetic revenge starts being served.
Yeah.
But I thought he did such a great job, like, playing this character. Like, I was completely, like, creeped out by his I was creeped out by his character. I thought that, I thought he nailed it. That's all I have to say. I don't even have words.
No, I thought Vincent Price was great. I think Vincent Price kills it in a lot of his roles, because he hams it up, as Pete said. But, I mean, he did that in respects in this movie because he's, like, tongue-in-cheek at the camera. But also, he nailed a lot of those Shakespeare lines. Like, he did the to be or not to be before he, like, commits the suicide. Attempted to commit suicide. And a lot of those, like, this is the winter of our discontent, I thought he nailed those. I thought he did, like, a really good job hitting that whole spectrum.
Yeah. Oh, Matt, you know what you never asked me?
What? I was trying to be a...
creepy headline.
Do you have a creepy headline? No way.
I do.
No way. I was just like, Pete doesn't have a creepy headline. I'm just going to forge ahead. But wow, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, podcast listeners. I should have asked.
Well, I cheated because I was looking one up as we were talking.
All right. Well, I mean, fire away. Let us know what it is.
Please.
So this is about Theatre Royal on Drury Lane in London, England.
I'm listening.
Which opened in 1660, 357 years ago. And I think they've had they had to rebuild the theater 3 times, as what I can see. And here's a little they have a little haunted section. The author Tom Ogden calls the Theatre Royal one of the world's most haunted theaters. The appearance of almost any one of the handful of ghosts that are said to frequent the theater signals good luck for an actor or production. The most famous ghost is the man in gray, who appears dressed as a nobleman of the late 18th century, powdered hair beneath a tricorn hat, a dress jacket, and a cloak or cape, riding boots and a sword. Legend says that the man in gray is the ghost of a knife-stabbed man whose skeleton remains were found with a walled-up side passage in 1848. Various people have reported seeing the ghost, including W.J. McQueen Pope, it's quite a name, who described its usual path as starting at the end of the 4th row in the upper circle and then proceeding via the rear gangway to the wall near the royal box, where the remains were found. And then there's a little more too. The ghosts of actor Charles Macklin and clown Joseph Grimaldi are also supposed to haunt the theater. Macklin appears backstage, wandering the corridor, which now stands in the spot where, in 1735, he killed a fellow actor, Thomas Hallam, in an argument over a wig. "God damn you for a background scrub, rascal!" he shouted, thrusting a cane into Hallam's face and piercing his left eye. Grimaldi is reported to be a helpful apparition, probably guiding nervous actors skillfully about the stage on more than one occasion. The comedian Stanley Lupino claimed to have seen the ghost of Dan Leno in his dressing room.
Jeez. All of those are pretty creepy, but I had to laugh at the wig death fight.
I'm still laughing.
Yeah. It's a little rational, a little overacting.
No kidding.
1700s, what can you say?
True.
Well, thanks, Pete.
I demand...
Thank you, Pete.
What did I say? Like when they do a duel, like, I demand... Like attribution or whatever. Retribution, yeah. I should know, I watched Barry Lyndon recently.
Well, thanks, Pete, for the creepy headline. Always glad to have them when they come through.
Very few and far between.
Which just makes them more special, don't you think?
One thing that I saw with this movie, we were talking about Vincent Price and how he kind of killed it in this role. He's regarded it as his favorite one that he's ever made.
Fair enough.
So, yeah.
I could see that, because he probably had a fucking great time making this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I heard, if I can add on to that, because he said he always wanted to do Shakespeare.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he always wanted to do it, but the time he started getting into horror, nobody really took him seriously anymore.
Yeah.
As, like, this actor that he was in the 40s, as this drama actor, so he was stuck in a horror. So he was like, fuck yeah, I gotta do these horror movies and do Shakespeare? Perfect. So he probably loved every minute of this.
It's kind of a shame that, like, people didn't take him seriously, because he was, like, I would say, like, even though he's, like, really hammy, he's a great actor because he fits with, like, the era he's from. He's, like, really within, like, the 40s style. Like, that's who he is, and then he just, like, takes that to the horror genre, which just seems, like, really corny. Because he takes it so seriously, and then, like, he has a great sense of humor about it.
Yeah.
So
100%.
like he's kind of perfect for it, because he just like he like loves it, and then like he's a great actor and he's just having a great time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can't say enough good things about Vincent Price. Big fans.
Yeah, I love House of Wax, and of course House on Haunted Hill, but House of Wax, I feel like, man, that movie's so sweet.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've talked about how he kills his victims by Shakespearean death. If you don't mind, I'd love to hear what your favorite one was, but if I could run them down real quick for people, in the order of who was killed and the death?
That would be great.
You guys don't mind?
That would be great.
Go for it.
And then I'd love to hear what your guys' favorites were of this movie, because there are some doozies. The first one we kind of talked about. I believe that was Maxwell. He was one of the critics, and he was hacked to death by the bums in the alleyway. Julius Caesar style. Ides of March, where Vincent Price reveals a mustache behind a mustache. And the next one is the critic who is impaled on a spear, and then he is dragged behind a horse for miles, finally ending up at the funeral of the previous critics. And that is supposed to be the play Troilus and Cressida. Oh god, I butchered that. Sorry, Shakespearean fans out there. That was
sorry, William.
Yeah, sorry, Bill. The next person is Arthur Lowe, and he has his head chopped off in his sleep. That's Cymbeline, I believe was that play. And on finding this, that's where the maid faints twice, which is a great scene. I thought her screams where she faints because the head rolls off the bed. I was laughing at that. The next critic is gets his heart ripped out, and that's supposed to symbolize the pound of flesh from Merchant of Venice. And then we have... Oops. What do we got here? I believe... Oh, I think I'm missing one, but then we have the guy who is drowned in the barrel of wine.
That sounds right. That should come next.
What's that?
I said that sounds like the right order.
Right. And I had what play that was from. I want to say King Richard III, but
yeah, I think you're right.
Don't crucify me, Shakespearean fans, if I'm wrong. I thought that's where he did the King Richard III speech. This is the winter of our discontent. And then the last one that I can think of was the lady critic who was fried in the curlers.
Yes.
Electrocuted.
There's also, I think the one after that was like the comedy where he fed.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
He fed the guy's dogs to him.
Yes.
And like kept feeding. Yeah.
That's
and then,
correct.
like you said, like King Lear kind of was like the last one.
And spoiler alert, that is Vincent Price, Edward Lionheart's death.
What a way to go out.
Yeah. Anyway, those are the deaths. I missed a few of the Shakespearean connections. But, guys, what was your favorites?
For me, I think it was the guy who got his heart kind of torn out. And the reason for that is because the kicker is his heart gets, like, delivered to, I think it was Devlin, who's kind of the main critic, who, he walks away kind of at the end, I believe. But, yeah, like, I mean, does it really get much worse than that? Like, you get somebody's heart delivered to you in a box, like, yeah, I didn't see that. I mean, that one for me, I think, was my favorite.
Okay.
What about you guys?
Pete?
Something that you didn't mention that I liked was like when he got like they did the fencing with the main critic that like was like left to last.
I meant to bring that up. Please discuss.
No, I was like, I really enjoyed, like, even though it was so obviously not them doing the fighting, it was like just a great, I thought actually like pretty well choreographed fight scene for like, I don't know, I was pretty impressed with it. I thought it was a lot of fun, but probably my favorite death is probably, like I said, with when he fed the guy's dogs to him, because like, it was weird because like, it was like I guess a cooking show that like he was presenting himself as, and he's like, oh, I love that show, and I was like, oh man, that's weird. It's like it like kind of makes me think of like shows now, like that are like people's favorite cooking shows, and I just thought it was really great that it ended up being his dogs. I didn't expect that because I had no idea what that Shakespeare play was.
Same.
And he was like really weird about his dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Do you need some jogging of your memory?
Yeah.
We were talking about like the fencing scene, and then were you thinking of like the ending where like he has the swords, for that critic because he wants to blind him? Is that maybe what you're gonna bring up?
No.
Or his daughter, who we haven't talked about at all?
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry, I found the dogs where he eats the poodles is Titus Andronicus. Is that play? That was bugging me so bad. Moving on for my brain. Yeah, but we haven't talked about his daughter whatsoever, which is kind of a big point in this movie.
But what's your favorite death first?
Oh, I didn't say mine. I really liked the scene of the poodles eating the poodles. That was good. But I think for me, where he gets the head cut off while the wife is laying in the bed next to him, because the whole scene is like they come out of that chest and they were in there all night, like waiting for them to go to sleep, and then he comes out and it's like a really comical scene of like he's like getting the blood squirted on him, and he's like, "No, I need this saw." And it's like the wife keeps waking up, and he keeps a syringe, and he puts it back in her. And then when he wakes up, that maid in the morning.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah. When he was like asking for the tool, and and then like his assistant would just like repeat it, like scalpel, and I don't know. I just thought it was just like really ridiculous.
That's
yeah.
Yeah, that one was fun. I feel like that movie, I don't know, like, it kind of just, like, it's so comical that, like, I feel like you could watch it, like, at a younger age, and then, like, it wouldn't really bother you. So, like, I kind of, like, I could see myself, like, enjoying it in, like, Saturday morning. I don't know, it just gave me that kind of vibe.
No, I agree with you. It's really campy. I mean, you said you could watch it with kids in, like, a Saturday morning. I really got like a JHD Bang Bang horror movie vibe. That's what I got. I was like, this is JHD Bang Bang to like the extreme. Like, so I get the feeling.
I'm glad I'm not alone. I thought I was just like, just crazy that I have like certain times. Like there's like a Saturday morning is real good, and then like a good, you know what a good Sunday movie is? A Sunday morning when you're kind of tired. Watch Arachnophobia, you know, you'll have a good time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Saturday nights have a feel, Sunday mornings have a feel. I get it, Pete.
I just watch horror movies all the time, so I just kind of have specific windows of like, it's best at nighttime with a beer.
I have a lot of respect for that.
Pete, you mentioned his daughter. Do you want to get into that a little bit? Edwina Lionheart?
Yeah, so I feel like in the beginning you don't really get a whole lot of her, and then she's really introduced after the first few killings. They kind of question her. The police kind of suspect her of doing it as revenge because like Vincent Price character is supposed to be dead, but he obviously survived, and you find out that he tried committing suicide because he was like upset that he didn't get his award, and he showed up to like the critics' place, and then they didn't like take him too seriously, and so she kind of seems like just like kind of like a real normal character. She's just like she's like works in films, so like kind of like what like her dad does, but like, you know, just different job. And it almost seems like she's going to be like the love interest of the main critic that we kind of talked about. And then, spoiler alert, she's like working with like Vincent Price like the whole time. And then like, I never actually realized that she was the one with the blonde wig. Cause they like, I think like the camera actually like really tricked you, because like they like when they first introduced her with blonde hair, they like really sexualized her with like looking at like her legs, because I was like like really
Yeah.
60s, like, ooh, look at this short skirt and like her high heels or whatever. And so I just didn't really realize that it was like her. And I'm also terrible like with wigs. I just can't tell what wigs are.
Yeah. Would you say you're terrible with wigs enough to get in a duel with it?
Yeah,
to the death?
absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you for being honest.
All right. I was just getting. Yeah, I appreciate it. I was trying to find the bar. Okay. Let's continue.
And so I thought that like surprise actually like got me. I was like, oh shit, like I didn't see that coming at all. So this like added to the factor of fun for me. Like I just thought, like even though I watched it in like pieces, so like it seemed to be really drawn out for me because I watched it in like a 2-day period. I still like had fun even though I made it seem longer by doing that to myself.
Yeah. I also watched it in a 2-day period. So I think I know what you mean. I was watching it at work and I kept getting interrupted, so maybe like 2.5 days almost.
Can't you see I'm watching?
I'm
Yeah.
gonna say
here.
that, like,
Work
leave
can
me
wait.
alone. But, you know, you can't say that.
Trying to make a living here.
Right.
I don't ask for much, but, like, when I'm trying to watch movies at work, like, that's the only thing I want. But that's besides the point.
Let me not do my job and watch this movie right now.
It's a simple request.
Do you have any fun trivia for us, Matt? I didn't look too much into this movie.
You know, there's a few that I saw. Some I mentioned that was Vincent Price's favorite movie, but I had to look this up as you were saying that Vincent Price fell in love with and married actress Coral Brownie following this production. So yeah, he met her on the production of this film. He married her after that.
Who's that?
Yeah, who was that?
I don't. Let me look that up real quick.
Is that like one of the?
Yeah.
Is that one of the critics? Maybe like the woman critic.
I got the cast up right
Again,
here.
it can't be...
Coral Brownie was Chloe Moon.
Was that the critic? I'm thinking that was the critic.
It's Chloe Moon. I wish I knew their name.
Yeah.
Better. Like the actual critic's name.
No, no idea.
I didn't know anyone except for the main character.
Oh, yeah. It was the critic, the woman critic who is electrocuted with the clothes.
Oh, no shit!
So he fell in love with her during the production, and they're married. Well, were married.
Were they married until he died, or did they separate?
I don't know the answer, but what the context I'm reading is yes, that was his last wife.
I also...
Yeah, that was his last wife.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
I also read
What's
that
up?
they only filmed this in about 5 weeks. So that was pretty fast for production.
Yeah, and to add on to that, I believe it was not none of it was shot in the studio. It was all shot on location somewhere.
London, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's
I actually find that pretty surprising because like on location like shooting didn't really become too popular until like I feel like the like late 80s. I want to say.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is 73. Again.
Right, wouldn't you say that like studio shooting was still pretty popular? Like there's like the only thing I could think of would be like on location is like those cheap like new Hollywood movies like they're trying to be really gritty.
Right.
Or like shot on location.
Well,
You know, like your French Connection kind of thing.
Well, we've talked a bit about, its horror significance or where it lies in the horror genre and Vincent Price's awesomeness as just an actor in general. But what we usually do is we talk about some trivia, but I think maybe the budget, box office, or reception, and if there were any sort of extensions of this movie, sequels or adaptations. Do you guys have any? Could you guys find the budget for this movie?
No, I didn't find any of that,
Did
actually.
you?
You did? No, I didn't. I knew it. I found the box office, but I could not find the actual budget
Huh.
of this film.
So
I think
mysterious.
the box office I found was around like $1 million. I think is what it said.
That was pretty good for back then, right?
Yeah, I'd say so, especially for a horror film.
Yeah. A horror movie that
Well,
came
it was
out
weird
in,
because, like,
April.
Also,
Yeah.
back then, like, movies didn't really make a lot of money. Like, they did, but, like, it wasn't, like, blockbusters.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like at this point, I mean, Theater of Blood is, I feel like, well regarded. It doesn't have the highest Rotten Tomatoes, but critically, and I think if you're just a horror fan, people generally
I think it has a pretty...
enjoy this movie. Actually, no, I take that back. I think it's like 96
Yeah,
on
I
Rotten
think
Tomatoes.
it definitely is, like...
I
could
think
see
it's
it
like
being,
well
like, a
regarded,
favorite
yeah, by
amongst
fans.
Vincent Price fans because it's just, like... It's just, like, fun to watch, and
Mm-hmm.
it's really entertaining because of, like, just the combination of Shakespeare and horror is not too... You don't actually see that too often, I think, in my opinion.
I think you rarely. I've never seen it, to be honest, besides this one.
Mm-hmm.
That I can think of.
Yeah, I'm sure there's... Yeah, there's some out there. I really like
I
the
think that was a
scene
really
where
unique combination.
you kind of first, like, see him, like, do his thing with, like, all his, like, bum community that, like, follow him, like, religiously. And then, like, he's, like, real, like, painted up, and he's just, like, giving the guy a weird look. It's like when they're doing, like, the live theater, like, the audience is a part of the production.
Yeah.
And then, like, I just thought that was pretty funny because, like, it's, like, really gimmicky, and he's like just really dramatic, like, makeup on.
Yeah, and they're like this. Yeah, and they're like this old rundown theater that's like broken chairs.
Yeah, that was
and,
wild.
like tattered curtains and stuff. But I got a real Penguin, like the Batman villain vibe from like the Danny DeVito version.
Yeah,
Tim Burton.
Yeah,
Where like I was like Lionheart is the Penguin, and like he had those like followers, didn't he? Like in his like little lair, the Penguin, or were they just I feel like there was some henchman with him, and that's just the vibe I got.
no, I could.
Very comic booky.
Yeah, I see. I definitely see what you're saying. Like it, I would agree with that actually.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can, Pete, we were talking about like just a second ago, horror movies during that time with Vincent Price, and they might not have made that much back in that time period. And I think what adds to that, the context historically, is like the horror genre, I feel like in Britain at that time, from my reading, was on the downward trend. Like the 50s and 60s were the heyday.
Yeah.
And that was like Hammer Productions. And Hammer Productions still had some into the early 70s. But it was really losing its popularity. So this one's great, but I think maybe what didn't help its success financially was because maybe it was just losing favor with audiences. That type of horror movie.
Yeah, I think... God, what... Do you think The Exorcist had something to do with that, or was that a little later?
And I think The Exorcist was like... Isn't that 74?
Is it 74? I thought it might have been... You might be right. I thought it could have been 72.
Pete, this is funny because I've been editing podcasts recently, and we've had this argument before on the It Records podcast, The Exorcist year. And I can almost say with certainty that it's 74 because we've talked about it in the past.
That's really funny that, like... I'm so adamant about the year being... Did I say 1972? That'd be really funny if I did that.
No, actually, I think the last argument, you were right, and I was wrong. I think I said it was 73. Yeah. Okay, no, it's released December 26th of 73 is when it came out. So it's 73 it came out, and you said 73 and I said 74.
Dang.
And now you're saying 72. We'll never get the year right. We'll never get it right. Right.
That's really funny. It's funny that I'm like close in the year, but like I'm still off.
Mm-hmm. I always do that with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like, I love that movie, but I always am like, was it 73 or 74?
I know.
I never.
I know for sure it's 74.
Yeah, it was filmed in
I
73,
think that
released in
one's
74.
74, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's unanimous.
Well, we talked about the success. Do you guys know of any sequels or, extensions of Theater of Blood?
I know. I've looked nothing into this movie. I have no idea.
Oh.
Not that I knew of, no.
Well, I did a little digging. Not too much. But they did a theater adaptation of it. So, stage adaptation. They changed a few scenes so that it was all, like, shot or took place in a theater. So the scenes that were, like, the beheading in the house or whatever, or they're outside, they kind of changed those scenes around. But a few interesting things about that. It was well received. But the person who played Lionheart is Jim Broadbent. You know who that is? He was Professor Slughorn in Harry Potter.
Oh, now I'm interested.
Yeah, he's a pretty good English actor, I'd say. But he played Lionheart in the stage production, and the person I believe who plays his daughter was the actual daughter of the actress in the movie.
Really?
Someone's daughter.
Daughter.
Diana Riggs, who plays his daughter, Lionheart's daughter. Her real life daughter played her role in the stage production.
That's really funny.
Mm-hmm.
Some fun 6 degrees right there.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure we can get it to Kevin Bacon somehow.
You just did.
But I think we've said a good piece about this movie. It's a good time to do our classic and fan favorite. I'm hearing from a lot of fans, they love this portion, Defend or Destroy. So who wants to take it first this week?
So all our moms are just really into this section.
Yeah. Our moms, they keep clicking and listening. Mm-hmm.
Well.
Yeah, why don't you guys start off?
I'll go.
Well.
Oh.
Okay.
Alright, okay, I'll take it away. I'll take the first one.
That's what I was going to say.
I'm going to full-heartedly destroy this movie. I hated it from top to bottom.
Quit playing!
Bottom to top.
Left to right. I would have burned the script when they brought it to the table. No, I defend it. It's no magnum opus, but it was really entertaining. I mean, I think Vincent Price killed it throughout the entire movie. It was a very intriguing plotline that I've never heard before. You do have your horror elements. There are a lot of deaths. The body count goes up. There is a lot of blood. A heart gets ripped out. But it also has that self-reflexive humor that, it has you laughing. It's very campy. It's an enjoyable film. It's very entertaining and has horror value, I believe. So I would defend it.
Yeah. I also would give it 2 thumbs all the way up. I think Vincent Price is completely brilliant, and like Matt said, I thought it was a very interesting storyline, and like I said, nothing that I had ever seen before. I love the Shakespeare tie-ins, and the fact that he went so out of his way to recreate, those deaths to be so closely similar to each play he was acting out. And like I said, it's got so many different elements, there's definitely humor, and like I said, drama, the violence, tragedy. So for me, in that way, it kind of makes it a jack of all trades.
Mm-hmm. Here. That was good. A good wrap up.
Something we forgot to mention before I obviously defend this movie. When Vincent Price is posing as the chiropractor of one of the critics' wives.
Oh yeah.
And then, I don't know, I just thought of it now. And then he's it's one of the plays of Shakespeare where he can basically convinces the critic to kill his own wife, and he spends the rest of his life in jail, killing him because he's so old that he's gonna die in jail. I thought that was that's pretty messed up to on a whole other level.
That's psychological torture.
Yeah, so this movie's got a wide variety of different ways to pay back, which makes it that more enjoyable because it's this classic revenge tale.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that, I think we've all defended it, so we're all fans. So check it out. It's on YouTube. Don't tell them. It's free on YouTube. You can just watch the whole thing on there if you'd like. Check it out. It's an hour and 43 minutes long. And we'll be back in the next week or 2 weeks. We'll have an episode out for you every Friday. Get at us on our Facebook and Twitter or on social media. We have a new website, eatrecordspodcast.wixsite.com. It's fresh. It's updated. We got our full episodes up there. And let us know what you're thinking. If you want us to talk about a certain movie, you want us to talk about a certain mini episode, which will both be coming at you soon. Thanks for listening. And that's me, Matt Johnson. And as always, I will remain in the shadows.
I really wish I had that King Lear speech memorized. That would have been really good. But I'm just saying it. I'm not actually going to say it. So goodbye.
And that's a wrap.